What is going down, sourdough squad? We made it to Friday. Still got to see if we're going to make it to Sunday, though. But what we're going to talk about today is because amidst all the conversations this week about the quarterback, I think it's being lost how well and how set up the San Francisco 49ers still are for success. So I want to talk about today why the San Francisco 49ers still have the best roster across the board in the NFL with a ton of questions at quarterback. And that is still a good problem to have currently for the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to talk about how the San Francisco 49ers find success moving forward. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. So, again, really excited about where the San Francisco 49ers stand amidst the quarter fatigue. If you are on this stream right now, what that means is you are a diehard San Francisco 49ers fan. You're not watching YouTube streams. You're not watching this ginger beard unless you are devout. You are about the San Francisco 49ers. You bleed red and gold. You don't just pop on here, just let's see what this ginger guy is talking. No, that's not how it works. You're on this stream because you know absolutely everything that is going on with the San Francisco 49ers. And that's what makes our fan base so phenomenal, because we have people here that want to know everything about this team, every transaction that isn't made, all of it. Like, that's why we got the SDS, baby. We got squad out here because we got real diehards. We got people out here that are invested into the San Francisco 49ers. They spend their money, their time, energy. That's why I think this quarterback situation now, heading into what, year 6, year 7 of Kyle Shanahan's tenure, can get exhausting. And it's like, man, we're still talking about it. We're this far in, and we're still talking about it. But there is some silver linings here, because I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers, and again, it can be tiring to talk about the quarterback, right? It can be like, oh God, here we go again. But I really do believe the San Francisco 49ers, amidst all those particular issues, I still think the San Francisco 49ers are set up almost better than any other team in the NFL right now. Like, again, if you have one of the top 5, top 8 quarterbacks, you're sitting pretty good, right? That's the most important position in all of football. You really don't have to question, your Herberts, your Burrows, your Jalen Hurtses, all, go down the list of top tier quarterbacks. And the San Francisco 49ers are still trying to decide, oh, do we have that guy? But I think, even though, because it feels like we're still questioning that, does that mean the 49ers aren't good? Does it mean that the San Francisco 49ers still can't find success amidst these questions being asked? And so I think this Friday, especially with all the quarterback talk, I feel like it would be a nice exercise just to remind ourselves that the San Francisco 49ers are sitting pretty damn good right now. I mean, all things considered, like, you look top to bottom, even with the players that were lost in free agency, you saw some of the guys that they brought in, and you can see with 11 picks heading into the NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers are still primed to do some work. And we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Draft day trades. Do we get additional players, maybe veterans from other teams that are looking to move guys for picks? There's all kinds of variables left. surrounding this situation. And I think the 49ers find themselves in a good spot. Shout out to our guy, Corey Soto, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you guys. He's dropping a hypothetical on us. If you trade Aiyuk to Kansas City, how do you estimate that value? Because with Mahomes, that's a top 3, top 5 receiver. And I think that's honestly the types of discussions that you have. If this team, and to be honest, like I do think there is a possibility that Brandon Ayuk could be traded. Um, and I'm not going to pretend like it's not there, but I think these types of conversations are going to dictate the value because any team that you're selling Brandon Ayuk to, especially if you have a legitimate quarterback, what you're selling is look again, this pull up the tweet from Brandon Ayuk, 1,000-yard receiver as the fourth option on a run first team. That's where you start. You're like, this guy's 1,000-yard receiver on a team that predicates itself on short to intermediate passes, utilizing running backs and players behind the line of scrimmage. Um, and this guy still produced. Now put him on a team with a bona fide quarterback one, and then you're slotting Ayuk into that potential wide receiver one for said team. This guy, you're talking about a 1,400-yard type receiver. So you're not selling Ayuk at the value that he's a 1,000-yard receiver. You're selling Brandon Ayuk at the value that he's a 1,400-yard receiver, and anything less of that, you don't even entertain. Like if you really are going to try to come and snatch Ayuk as if you're going to get a value for Ayuk, it's a fool's errand, in my opinion. If I'm the San Francisco 49ers, and again, I understand where the 49ers are by keeping all options open. The famous line between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan was they would trade each other if the deal would be good enough. And I think that's good business, right? Like, even at the end of the day, like, if you could get a trade for Kyle Shanahan that would revolutionize the standing of your franchise, of course you would look into it. I'm the big proponent of Kyle. I wouldn't trade Kyle unless they're like, we'll give you Brian Burns, the number 1 overall pick, and the number 1 overall pick for the next 2 years. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. I'll think about trading Kyle for that amount. You know what I'm saying? So everyone has their price. But the important conversation with Aiyuk is that if the San Francisco 49ers are selling Aiyuk just to sell Aiyuk, I think that's a mistake. I think that's a huge mistake. But if you're selling Aiyuk at the value that he is a 1,400-yard type wide receiver and you get that value in return, that's something I would think about. I wouldn't, I'm not out here trying to trade Aiyuk. That's not at all the case. Aiyuk should be here. But again, we understand how roster construction works. Where's the money coming from? Who's getting paid? Are they going to have 2 high-end, $20+ million a year wide receivers? Is that suitable for long-term success and cap health and stuff like that? That's why these questions are out there. But no, I don't think anyone in this fan base wants to trade Aiyuk. I think if you polled this fan base, I would say it would be a 95%. And again, this fan base, hey, we're a passionate group. We don't always see eye to eye on everything, but I think one of the things that this fan base sees eye to eye on is not trading Brandon Aiyuk. Everyone sees that Brandon Aiyuk is an ascending player. He is going to only continue to get better. And you put him in an offense where he is the number 1 target. He has an arm. Like, hey, he's going to do big things. So I agree with you, Corey. You have to sell him at the estimated value of what he will be. And I'm not selling him I'm already reluctant to have the conversation. But again, the only reason I'm having this conversation is if Parag Marate comes to me and says, listen, Brad, we love Brandon Aiyuk and what he does here, but we can't afford to pay him as a $20 million wide receiver. We don't know if we're going to be able to see eye to eye on an extension. And that's where the trade conversations become viable, just because I understand wanting to get something in return for an asset like that. Like when we look at Brandon Ayuk, we see him as a wide receiver one. Like I see him as a wide receiver one, and I think Debo Samuel's supremely talented, but Debo does it a different way. Ayuk is like your prototypical X wide receiver, a guy who can run deep, nasty routes. He can run short to intermediate. He can do work over the middle of the field. He's a phenomenal blocker. You can even use him behind the line of scrimmage if the 49ers tried to. So he's, to me, a complete number one in your prototypical sense. So the ask to trade Ayuk, man, you got to get a haul. Like, and we talked about this before. The Broncos are trying to fetch a one for Jerry Judy. And I'm like, well, if the Broncos are trying to fetch a one for Judy, then it's minimum 2 firsts for Ayuk because Ayuk smokes Judy 7 days out of the week. So I like the hypothetical. You guys know I'm big into hypotheticals and I will entertain hypotheticals. And it continues to be a fascinating conversation, kind of surrounding roster construction, the future of how this team views Brandon Ayuk. Is he a part of their long term plans? Because if he is, I think the same conversation that we're having for trade value is the same conversation you're having with his reps. So I think that's an important thing to also kind of put at the forefront of our mind. If we see Brandon Ayuk as a 1,400-yard receiver, I do. I 100% do. I think he's that guy. And if I'm selling him at that value. Okay, well, if you're keeping him, all right, then you got to sign him at that value. So it's a double-edged sword. And so that's why we'll see. That's why we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if anything's going to happen. I think the majority of it is mostly talk right now, but like the reason we're having this conversation is because he is valuable, like to the point where it's like the Mike McGlinchey situation. Are we going to be able to keep Mike? I don't know. I don't think we can keep Mike, but you know what I'm saying? So it's a nuanced conversation um, about the whole Ayuk situation. But as of right now, Ayuk is here to stay. And Ayuk is a big reason why the San Francisco 49ers currently have one of the best rosters in the NFL, in my opinion. And if you do have these questions at quarterback, trading Brandon Ayuk just doesn't feel like the best idea, right? Like if again, we don't know who the quarterback is for the San Francisco 49ers. We've been told it was Brock Purdy, and I believe that that's what they believe as well. And all things considered, Brock Purdy should be healthy and ready to go, but we're still talking about it as should. He could, stuff like that. So we're still trying to discern for ourselves what the situation is going to be. But if you do have the questions about the quarterback, trading your arguably best wide receiver option. And again, Debo's brings value in a unconventional way, but a ton of value still nonetheless. Even if he had a bit of a dip last year, he still brings a ton of value. So I would say I wouldn't be looking to trade him this year. I'd pick up the 5th year, and I'm trying to win a championship. You know what I mean? Like I understand recouping value for someone, but ultimately at the end of the day, San Francisco 49ers are trying to win a championship. So if that's the goal and that's the focus, don't trade BA. Maybe we can have these conversations at the end of next year. But if we're trying to win a championship, you need BA. You have to have BA. You just do. You have to. You can't think about trading that guy. You can't. You just can't. I mean, would you agree? Like, if the ultimate goal is to win a championship this year, That's the whole, like, kind of emphasis why Trey Lance isn't getting the job, remember? Like, that's kind of like what we've been how it's been rationalized to us, why Trey Lance isn't going to go out there and be given the starting job because the 49ers saw enough from Brock, but they're also in a win now mode. And they're trying to win football games. So they're gonna go with the guy who's gonna give them the best possible foot forward to go attack a championship, and trading BA doesn't feel like you're accomplishing that. Again, in a vacuum, but you can also, of course, make the argument, well, who would they get? Who would they get in return? Like what's the compensation for BA? That changes the conversation, of course. Because if you're getting Brian Burns for BA, that's a different conversation. You go from, you know, having one of the best 1-2 tandems at wide receiver to going and having hands down the best defensive line in football. And then you're having a conversation. Well, would you rather have the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver, or would you rather have the best defensive line in football? Which one translates to more success? So obviously that's a different conversation in of itself. But ultimately, if it's coming down to picks, I've picks are yes, you can get a stud in this draft, but I like Aiyuk on this team to help push for a championship. I feel like it would be hard to, like, let's say for example you trade BA, right? Debo gets hurt. Your top 2 wide receivers at that point are Jawan Jennings and Ray McLeod. I mean, yes, you have Kittle. Yes, you have CMC, but it gets real. It gets really real there in a second without Debo or Ayuk uh, in the lineup. You already know I'm gonna find a way. It's gonna happen. And I see some super chats in here. I'm gonna get to those super chats here in a second. Um, I'm multitasking right now. I apologize. Squirrel. All right. Sorry. Let me get to these super chats. Gammon says hypotheticals is another way of saying role playing. 100%. We're playing GM in the off season. That's why I love the off season. I like to put myself in these guys' shoes from that type of standpoint and be like, what would I do in this scenario? What would I do if I was posed with these questions and these challenges of having a top wide receiver, but maybe not being able to keep the top wide receiver based on you look across the team and all the contracts that have been given out, and rightfully so. But at what point does that create a bottleneck? Type of effect for adding additional talent or sustaining long-term success. So I'm always open, and I love entertaining those types of conversations because it's the off season, the only time we get to do it. Zach Brown, appreciate Zach Bowen, and shout out Gammon for the super chat. Says I'd free up space by getting rid of Kittle and draft a tight end. Does Zach know? Does Zach know about our rule? I don't think he does. I'll let it slide because I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's malicious at all. But I don't think Zach knows about the rule of this channel. We don't have a lot of rules. We really don't. There's really not a whole lot. We like to keep good vibes. We try to keep a level head. We try to stay open-minded to be able to talk about all these nuanced types of things. But one of the main rules is we don't speak of trading Kittle here. Kittle is a mainstay San Francisco 49er in my opinion. Um, I've blocked people from the channel for saying trade Kittle. Um, it's just one of those things. It's like I can never see myself entertaining trading Kittle for multiple reasons. Like I love Kittle on like a fan level, but when you look at him from like what he does for this team, I mean, tight ends are a premium in this offense. The outs, any all that outside zone, all those Zorro looks, all the split zone, like they rely on tight ends so much. And right now, the San Francisco 49ers have the best tight end for what they do. Like, of course, a lot of people are going to make the argument that Travis Kelce is the best tight end. But Travis Kelce is not the best tight end if you put him in our scheme because George Kittle is the best tight end for what the San Francisco 49ers ask tight ends to do. He is him and Juice. Like Kittle and Juice don't get enough credit for their impact to the run game. Like we talk about the 49ers being a run first team, a lot of these runs start and stop with Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk. Those guys are always at the point of attack. Either Juice is kicking someone out, Kittle's kicking someone out, one of them is pulling up in the hole, running backs are following them, they're crossing the formation. Like fullback, tight end, synonymous with this offense. Like you have to have like a elite level blocker to be able to have success in this scheme. So that's why it's like, and he's a leader. Like he's one of the main leaders in the locker room. So for me, that's why I don't like talking about trading Kittle because I think he's just so important. I know he's getting up there in age. I can't believe Kittle's been in the league for like 6 years now. It's crazy. I remember how excited I was when the 49ers drafted Kittle. I can't believe we're getting to that point. It's just wild how fast time is flying. But I'm a big proponent of keeping Kittle around. Zach says, "LOL, my bad. I didn't know. All good. I figured you didn't." He says, "I just think BA can be super valuable and don't see how we keep both. Won't happen again." I could tell. I could tell it was meant in it wasn't meant said maliciously or meant maliciously. Which happens sometimes. It's weird. But I understood where you're coming from. So you're good. You're welcome here, Zach Bowen. I think it's one of the first times I've seen you around here. So welcome to the SDS squad. We don't like to slander Kittle here, not at all. We don't have many rules, but we got the Kittle rule. But anyways, and we're kind of on it. We're talking about it. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, they just this year, next year, like I want to be cautious of the trading because although I understand the business side of it, building and you know, looking to the future for the roster, and I'm admittedly an ageist when it comes to roster building philosophies, et cetera, but we're trying to win now, man. The window's still open. The window is open now, and any second that thing can be slammed shut. And even with all the questions at quarterback, the San Francisco 49ers still have one of the better rosters in the league. This was the PFF pre-draft NFL power rankings. This is what is so fascinating about this team. We don't know who the quarterback is. Not only, I think we all agree it's the most important position in football. You can absolutely make the case that quarterback is probably the most important position in all of sport. Uh, for what the impact is, what the responsibilities are, and everything that comes along with it. And the San Francisco 49ers don't know who that is, yet they're still looked at across the league as a top 3 team. As you can see right here, they're ranked number 2, and probably one of the only reasons they're ranked behind the Chiefs is because the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, again, is best quarterback in the league right now, and that will absolutely tip you over the top. But when you look down the list, you go to the Eagles. Well, look at the Eagles. The Eagles were able to bring back Darius Slay. He's a 32-year-old cornerback, and Bradbury. They paid those guys a lot of money. They lost Chauncey Gardner Johnson. They lost Javon Hargrave. Where's Javon? He's on the 49ers. They lost a lot of talent. They lost key positions at every level. They lost safeties. I think they lost both their safeties. They lost linebackers, defensive linemen. So their roster took a big hit, but they got Jalen. They have AJ Brown. They still have Malyada, Dickerson, Kelsey's coming back. They lost their right guard, and they still have Lane Johnson. So they still got weapons on offense, but they lost a lot to their defense. And then you look at the Bills. Bills got Josh Allen. They have James Cook. I think they signed a running back. I forget who, but they got Diggs. They got Gabe Davis coming up. Dawson Knox. I'm a big Dawson Knox guy. Pretty serviceable offensive line. They have a pretty stout defensive line. Their defense is getting better. But I mean, you look at the Bengals, I mean, the Cowboys, Chargers, Vikings, Ravens, Dolphins. I mean, Chiefs have a quarterback, obviously top 1 quarterback. I would say the Eagles, you can make the case Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. I would say I would have Josh Allen as number 2 overall quarterback in the league. You look at the Bengals, Burrow definitely can make the argument. He's number 4. Dak has had a rough go at it these last couple years. I'd say Dak's kind of outside the top 10 right now, or he might be floating around that top 10 category. Justin Herbert, I think you can make the case as a top 5 quarterback. Kirk Cousins, you can make the case he's a top 8 quarterback. The Ravens right now have Lamar Jackson. You would assume Lamar is in that top 5, top 8 category. And Tua, I don't love Tua. I thought Tua did better the last year, but I don't know. Tua's better than I thought, but the 49ers gave Tua fits last year. Tua's probably outside the top 10. You look at all these teams, most of them have top 10 quarterbacks. San Francisco 49ers right now, we don't know. Like you have Brock Purdy, who's coming off UCL. You have Trey Lance coming off 2 ankle surgeries, and you bring in Sam Darnold. But the 49ers still have a roster that can go toe-to-toe with anyone. And with Kyle Shanahan's scheme and the way the 49ers operate their offense, it allows them to do a lot of different things. And then when you look at the defensive line with Bosa, I don't know if you guys have seen Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead looks like different to me, like physically. Like, I don't know if he's shedding weight, but he looks lean and like in shape. Like, Eric looks like he's getting ready for a big year. So I think, and then of course you add Javon Hargrave. This defensive line is stout. We brought in Cleveland, and we're still trying to piece. We have Drake Jackson heading into year 2. I don't think they're done at edge. I think the San Francisco 49ers are heading into the draft, and they have an opportunity to continue to load up on the edges. So the defensive line is stout. I mean, again, like we talked about, don't anticipate Aiyuk going anywhere, but you got Deebo Samuel. You've got Brandon Aiyuk. These two guys right here are real problems. And then you add in Jawan Jennings and what he can do. You have the ability of both Danny Gray and Ray McLeod. I still think Danny Gray is an ascending asset. So I think Danny Gray is going to continue to improve. I'm not out on Danny Gray. I think he has some opportunities. So the wide receiver core looks pretty solid. And again, we're big advocates of George Kittle around here and the importance of George Kittle to this scheme. I do, however, think the 49ers go draft a tight end. I think they should. I think they should. A guy that I really like from getting to speak to him at the combine is Clemson tight end Davis Allen. I think he would be a phenomenal target for the San Francisco 49ers. He's a phenomenal receiving tight end, but he also gets busy in the blocking game, and he can probably add about 15 pounds of solid muscle to his frame. So you got Kittle as your tight end one. Go out, get a tight end two. They got Warner, Dwelly. They can get after it. You have these two guys in the middle of your defense. You bring Javon Hargrave and you plop him right in the middle to play across from Eric Armstead. These guys are probably so happy right now, Greenlaw and Fred Warner, because they're already two athletic freaks, right? These guys go sideline to sideline better than anyone in the NFL from the linebacker position. But now you eliminate second level blocking because both Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead require double teams, and double teams are only successful if you can double the backer. Double the backer, double the backer, double the backer. Got to be able to double the backer if you're going to have a successful run game and be able to create those holes and those gaps in the defense. If you're not getting to backer and you're letting these guys just shoot gaps, read and react, and do it cleanly, poof, good luck running on the San Francisco 49ers. Good luck. On top of that, they're two of the best cover linebackers in the NFL. So, again, the 49ers have questions at quarterback, but don't forget, we are stacked. We have talent across the board. Across the board. Someone asked, King Breeze says, who's starting with them? Oren Burks. That's my clubhouse leader for LB3 right now. Just because, too, we look back last year, if Aziz was hurt, it was Oren. Oren was the guy. I like Oren a lot. I don't think Oren got enough hype or was talked about enough. I do think that Oren Burks is that LB3, kind of your weak side linebacker in the kind of base packages. We do know 49ers ran a ton of nickel last year. So LB3 is the guy who's coming off the field for the nickel to come in. But I think Oren Burks is the clubhouse leader to take it. I think that Marcelino McCrary Ball and DFF have an opportunity to challenge for it. So it's going to be interesting. But I think they're still good. They have good depth. I think they could, and I still think they address linebacker either at the end of the draft or in free agency. Jalen Graham out of Purdue, he's a guy that I would think would be a phenomenal undrafted free agent linebacker, converted safety, kind of that same Azeez Al-Shaair mold, converted safety to linebacker, get him as an undrafted free agent, and watch him develop. Kind of like Marcelino McCrary Ball a little bit. I think DFF was even a converted safety as well. So again, still plenty of options, still plenty of depth. You look at the safety position, you got Hufanga had a phenomenal year, regardless of the perceived struggles that he had down the stretch of kind of some coverage busts, which they existed. When you look at the body of work, Hufanga had a really good season. Of course, he came out the gates going crazy, right? But Hufanga has an opportunity to take another step. He was first team All Pro and a Pro Bowler. And he has a guy he can take another step. I expect him to take another step. I don't think Hufanga is flatlined in year 2, his first full year starting. First, I mean, what we got out of Hufanga exceeded expectations, and that includes any of the coverage busts that people want to talk about, and rightfully so, still exceeded expectation. And I do believe Hufanga is a smart enough player that he's going to get that figured out. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think he's only going to improve physically and mentally. And we're going to have a like legit safety in Hufanga for years to come. And obviously, we get Gibson back. So we have that familiarity of these two guys ready to go, right? Ready to go. So that allows the San Francisco 49ers to go to the draft to be able to potentially bring in I like Jair Brown. What's really hard about this time of year, and it kind of also relates to Peyton's comments, is trying to gauge value because media rankings don't match pro personnel rankings. That's why every year you're going to see these guys that are talked about a lot just fall out. And you're like, well, where's the disconnect? It happens every year. So that's why you always got to take media rankings in the draft. Like for me, like that's why I don't like PFF's board. Like if you go do a mock draft simulation for PFF, I think it's not good. I don't think it's accurate. Not even close. Um, but that's where we kind of ingrain ourselves with like where we think the value is. And Jalen Graham could absolutely be a 5th round type of prospect for sure. I've seen it from all ranges. I've seen him go in the 5th. I've seen him go undrafted. So it will be fascinating to see where he ultimately goes. But to the safety, I think the 49ers can still improve at this position and they can prove in the draft. But there aren't any holes here. There aren't any holes here at the safety position. And I do think even some of these guys like George Odom or Taylor Hawkins, undrafted free agent, could play a role for this team. And yes, do not forget about the cornerbacks on this team. Uh, so I already put out my bold take on this, and so I'll reiterate it here for you guys. I think Mooney Ward next year could play at a level that makes him the best. Excuse me. I think Mooney Ward could be the best cornerback in the NFL next year. I believe he's already top 10, but I think with another full year in the system, you add Javon Hargrave, that's only going to help the DBs even more. I think Mooney Ward could have a year. My bold take is Mooney Ward will be the number 1 cornerback in football next year. So that's my bold take. So we are putting respect on Mooney Ward that he will be the number 1 corner. Better than what's his name over there on the Broncos, Patrick Surtain, Jair Alexander, Trayvon Diggs. You get on the list. I know I'm missing someone. Even Sauce Gardner, even Tyreek Woolen. Like, I think Mooney Ward has absolutely that potential to be able to become the number 1 corner in the NFL next year. So that's my bold take. That's my first real bold take for next season is he will do that. And SoCal Niner says, will Coach Wilkes raise the secondary play? That's the cool thing about Steve Wilkes is a secondary guy. We know that uh D'Amico was a linebacker. He played linebacker in the league, was one of the best linebackers when he played. He developed a lot of these guys at linebacker, and then he took over as DC at linebacker. Steve Wilkes is a secondary guy. So there might even be a level where the secondary could improve on that merit alone based on what Steve's got cooking up from a coverage standpoint. I know that D'Amico did a phenomenal job getting these guys in and out of specific coverages based on certain game plans, certain personnel. He did a phenomenal job at it. So it'll be interesting to see how Steve does. But I think Mooney Ward I still think he can take another step. Um, what do I think about a big hitter at safety like JL Skinner? JL Skinner would be a dog to add to the San Francisco 49ers secondary. I think his value is going to go later. I think JL Skinner might be a 4th or 5th round draft pick simply because he tore his pec at the combine. So his timetable for being able to be a part of training camp and things like that is skewed. And of course, it's always a red flag to draft a guy with an injury like that. So I do think that actually benefits the San Francisco 49ers a little bit into getting good value on this guy. Maybe you don't have to take jail on the 3rd. You can maybe watch him slide to the 4th or the 5th. And he has hybrid qualities to him. So I like him for multiple roles. Like he could be a nickel linebacker. Um, I think he's best suited for being in the box. I still need to see a little bit more from him from a coverage standpoint, but the 49ers have shown like they can get a lot of success out of safeties that you wouldn't think are like quote unquote coverage guys. So you get a hard hitter like that with phenomenal instincts, really good size. Like, isn't Skinner like 6'4"? He's got a really slim body type. Um, and I got to see him up close at the combine. Like he's pretty skinny. So you could probably try to add some thickness to him, but regardless of his frame, he'll rock you. He'll knock your head off. For sure. For sure, for sure. Better than Ramsey. Yeah, I think Ramsey is recently overrated. Uh I don't I think he's still rated. I think Ramsey's probably top 10. You probably make the case he's probably 8 or 7 in the rankings. Just spitballing. But Ramsey isn't a factor in the run game. Mooney is. Now, again, we think of cornerbacks for coverage. Like Mooney is a factor in the run game. Like he will fill and he will lower his shoulder and he makes plays in the run game. And that's something that I hold in high regard for cornerbacks. I don't like cornerbacks that don't tackle. Going back to my draft process. Go back to CJ Henderson. I hated CJ Henderson coming out of Florida because I had never seen a prospect on tape so reluctant to tackle someone. I was like, there's no way. I was like, I can't stand this guy as a prospect. I don't want him anywhere near my team. Okay, you tell me he's a elite coverage cornerback. That's fine. I think he's a bust because I think his mentality of just pure unwillingness to tackle someone is a detriment. You even saw it when the 49ers played the Panthers. He could have tackled Tevin Coleman and he didn't. He purposely took an angle that made him not tackle. He's terrible. CJ Henderson, I don't know how this came back to CJ Henderson. But he was I think a top 15 draft pick. A lot of people liked CJ Henderson quite a bit. But the point being is the emphasis on tackling, and that's where Mooney Ward is at the top of the league. He is one of the best run supporting cornerbacks in the league, um, and so that also is combined with what I consider to be a top cornerback. Yeah, you want to get interceptions, you want to get pass deflections, you want to have lockdown coverage, of course, but I like my guys to be able to rock someone and be a factor in run support. That's why I love Mooney. Mooney's phenomenal. You have Diamador Lenore. Diamador Lenore is the same way. He's like Mooney light. He's going to get his nose dirty. He's going to make tackles. He's going to play aggressively. Um, and I still think Diamador has another gear as well. Diamador could get even better next year. Um, One of the things that I love about Diamador, and I'm not afraid to admit this, we were asked, I think I was on a stream with the Ponte, and it was in training camp, early in training camp last year, and someone asked me who are some surprise cuts that you think could happen on offense and defense? And I was like, oh, that's a tough question because a surprise cut in the definition of it is someone that you don't think is going to be cut, but could be cut based on the way Kent was going. And because Diamador was buried on the depth chart. I mean, he was like the fifth cornerback. Ambry was getting snaps ahead of him. Darquez Denard was getting snaps ahead of him. Everyone was getting snaps ahead of Diamador Lenore. I said Diamador could be the surprise cut for defense. My surprise cut on offense was Dwelly. So those were my two surprise cuts during camp. And I am so happy that was not the case. If they would have cut Demo, that would have not been good. So glad that didn't happen. But I think it also speaks to where Diamador was in training camp and how he ended the year it's a phenomenal story. Like he was buried on the depth chart, didn't feel like he was going to have the right of way to even like there was a chance like it would have been a numbers game and he wouldn't have been available. They would have maybe tried to bring him on the practice squad or something like that. I don't know. But he fought until he became the starter and he really stepped in and did a good job. So I like what Mooney provides. Shout out Kyle Juszczyk. I talked about him earlier. Most underrated player on the 49ers. I tend to forget about him sometimes. Like when I think of the San Francisco 49ers star players, Juice is a star. There's no one better than Kyle Juszczyk at playing the fullback position. You can make the case in the past 10 years. He's a generational player. He'd be able to play in all eras. He's phenomenal. Juice he is the GOAT fullback. Like, I mean, obviously you have some really good guys out there. Yeah, I mean, you got your Rathmans, you've got your All Stotts, you've got your who are some other legendary fullbacks from the past. Why am I blanking on my guy's name? Lorenzo Neal. I think he's in that conversation. I think he's in the conversation. What a random comment. Do you realize you didn't score a point against us this year, my boy? You forget that. And what, 2019 beat you with Jimmy G? Didn't age well. Good comment though. Juice is him. So he needs to be talked about. He's a focal point of the 49ers run game. Juice will lead you. 49ers have some young talent on the O line. Obviously, we know who the OGs are on the O line. We know the boy Trent Williams, the man, the myth, the legend, goat tackle. But when you look at the the Young Bucks. I mean, these are 3 guys that we're gonna have to rely on this year. Aaron Banks definitely proved he's a starting offensive lineman. Burford has so much potential. I still have him in the potential category because I mean, just look at him. Like, look at the arms, man. Look at the he's a beast. He's a freaking beast. If he can continue to master the small intricacies of O-line, dude could be a top 10 guard. And I think it's gonna come. I think with another full season, more reps, he will develop into that. So I'm very excited about these 2 guys, specifically Burford and Banks. But you see that guy in the back, Colton McKivitz. I'll put some respect on Colton McKivitz. Um, I think he's better than Tom Compton. We saw what the 49ers did with Tom Compton in 2021. I think he's better than Tom Compton. Um, so I do think Colton McKivitz can be an adequate starter. I don't think Compton is going to be the guy that you're like, or excuse me, McKivitz is going to be the guy that you're like, oh, he's one of the best tackles in the league, but he's going to be adequate. I feel good. I feel good enough. But I'm also really excited because I think the 49ers can go into this draft and take another guy to help this guy. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but is Christian McCaffrey the focal point of the San Francisco 49ers offense right now? I'll ask you first and then I'll give my take. So in the chat, is Christian McCaffrey the focal point of the San Francisco 49ers offense? Because it definitely feels like it. Even after what was it? Being traded for mid-year, what he was able to do, not only what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, what he does when the ball isn't in his hands. Like Christian McCaffrey is that this is why like I went on 95.7 the game after or no, this was actually before. This was before they traded for him. No, was it after? Was it before? Was it after? I think it can't remember if it was before because they asked me about who would I rather have, Christian McCaffrey or OBJ. They asked me that question. I said Christian McCaffrey, hands down, not even gonna blink. And I can't remember if I said it in that moment or if it was after they had just traded for Christian McCaffrey and asked from like what CMC. Regardless, I said Christian McCaffrey is like Steph Curry. I felt like Christian McCaffrey, he's like Steph Curry to me. And my explanation for that was when Steph is on the court, no one creates more gravity than Steph Curry. And when I say gravity, Steph has this gravitational pull. When he is on the court moving, defenders have to account for him. They have to they stick to Steph Curry wherever he goes. He is like gravity, which opens up opportunities for other people. And so when they got CMC, whether before or after, I was like, he's like Steph, man. He is like Steph Curry. This guy, when he steps on the field, defenses have to know where he is at all times. And just the threat of him being on the field can suck up defenses and allows you to counter off of it. So, and we've seen that. Like, I mean, even with Debo Samuel and what we've seen from Debo Samuel, like CMC has this different level of gravity that defenses have to pay attention to him. and they're going to make sure that they're not getting cooked by CMC, and he might be the focal point right now of the San Francisco 49ers offense. So 49ers, man, again, we got a lot of questions at quarterback, but this team's freaking stacked, dog. Like we still got guys in every position group. And that's why, like, again, the whole purpose of today's show was we're going to be talking about the quarterback. It's just going to happen. You guys know how it goes. It's always going to naturally kind of come back to that. This is going to be our third or fourth year with questions at quarterback. So we have a pretty good feel for how the rest of the offseason is going to play out. But again, just want to put an emphasis on, like, even if you do feel a little bit stressed out about the quarterback position, you feel like, man, 49ers can never get this right. Why can't we get the 49ers quarterback situation figured out? Uh, the positives, the silver linings are that the 49ers are stacked, man. They're one elite edge away from having a potato at quarterback win the Super Bowl. I promise. I promise you. Like, we've seen Kyle Shanahan be able to elevate middling quarterbacks, and especially with all the weapons around them, the defense that they have, it can be done. It's harder, right? It's a little harder, especially in the playoffs, but it can be done for sure. Samuel says, Brad, how do you feel about what Kyle said that Trey and Sam Darnold are going to split first team reps? For me, I wasn't super taken off guard by it. I'll be honest. I wasn't. Because I've seen this team. I've covered two training camps, like, in its entirety. Um, from I think what, over like 12 plus practices, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 practices each year. So I'm able to kind of stack together a pretty solid understanding. Like, I was like, dude, you should have seen their offensive line rotations last year. The offensive line rotations had my mind spinning. Like, so they rotate. It's just one of the things they do. Uh it wasn't like super jarring to me because I know Kyle loves Sam Darnold. Like, I really do believe, and there's no knowledge here, like actual knowledge, outside of anything that they've talked about openly in the media. Um, but I think he really likes Sam Darnold. And I started watching the tape. I still have more tape study to do. And I was like, I know why he likes him. I know I know why Kyle likes Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is like the juiced up Kirk Cousins or the juiced up Brock Purdy from a physical tools standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching him and I'm like, dude looks like Brock Purdy with a better arm. The problem with Darnold has never been his talent. It's always been his processing. And I think Kyle believes he can fix that. And that's where I look at Trey and Darnold splitting reps. And I know some people are just like disregarding it, like, oh, Sam has no shot, right? Sam has no shot at this. I don't believe that. and again, it's not because I like Sam. I called Sam a bust coming out of USC. I thought he was terrible. Um, because I thought he was terrible at processing. I thought he was terrible at seeing the field. And I didn't think he would translate to the NFL. All the talent in the world, but I didn't think it was going to translate because I didn't think he could see the field. If Kyle can eliminate those things, which he does, like think about like the things that stood out to me on about Sam Darnold and his tape was dude could throw vertically, or excuse me, horizontally. He can throw horizontally very well. And what do you mean horizontally? He can throw the screen game, wide receiver screen, tunnel screens very well. That's something that Jimmy Garoppolo struggled with because he struggled with ball placement and velocity. It was one of the things that Brock Purdy was phenomenal at. I mean, you see Brock, man. He gets that snap and he's already starting his throwing motion and he's being able to get that ball out on the quick screen to Debo Samuel. Um, that's why we started to see more success on the wide receiver screen game is because Brock Purdy was able to freaking rifle it in there and put it on a spot with timing. When I watched Sam, I'm like, oh, he can do that. Like he can, like easy, like not a problem, right? It's a screen game. Like all you're doing is the wide receiver's there. You just got to get it there. That's the biggest battle with the wide receiver screen game. And Darnold was just flicking them, and it would just zip. I was like, oh, it's like Kyle's gonna like that. And then you start to watch Sam Darnold in the pocket, and then you're seeing Sam Darnold kind of step up into the pocket, kind of have his feet like he's gonna go to the left, but he flips the ball right, 25-yard down field on a line outside the numbers. And I'm like, oh, Kyle's gonna like that. You see him spin out of the pocket, reset, throw on the move to the left. I'm like, oh, Kyle's gonna like that. There's a 4th and 3. He had to move outside the pocket, and then he had to deliver a dart to the sideline to DJ Moore, uh, and just put it on the money. I was like, yep, Kyle's gonna like that. And then there was one to DJ Moore where it was like a 35-yard pass downfield. Single coverage on the outside, DJ Moore versus I think it was Sean Murphy Bunting for the Bucks, and single coverage, tight coverage, and Sam just stood in the pocket, delivered a freaking strike. I'm like, I tweeted it. I was like, I see why Kyle Shanahan likes Sam Darnold, and that's never been his problem. Sam Darnold's problem has never been ability. It's been with processing. And Kyle, once you learn the intricacies of Kyle's scheme and you know that part of it, I really do think Kyle takes away the guessing parts of it. You got 1, 2, and check down. I think from what we've seen with Jimmy and kind of Trey, they like split the field. Quarterback comes up to the line, he reads the defense, he picks either the right or the left side based on what the particular pass play calls for. He picks a side, he reads that side of the field, 1, 2 to check down. So 1's not there, 2's not there. All right, outlet, get it to either CMC in the flat or Kittle in the flat. I mean, Brock came in and we saw Brock hitting all 4 of his reads and check downs. And we're like, all right, we haven't seen that in a long time. But where Sam can have success is his ability to process and operate within the scheme. So if he can do that, then I think I won't be shocked if we're talking about Sam Darnold looking better than Trey at training camp, which is crazy. Crazy. I never thought I'd see the day. But again, it's a crazy sport. Uh, it's crazy. It's crazy how this stuff works, man. It's crazy. It really is. Uh, it's really crazy. So I have a lot of hope for Trey, but I do think Sam Darnold is coming in here for a reason, and I do think it is to play. I think Sam Darnold is coming in here to compete. I don't think Sam Darnold's coming in here to be quarterback 3. And from what I saw on tape, he's capable. He's more than capable. He's got a better arm than Brock Purdy. He's probably more accurate than Trey Lance. He's got mobility like both of them. And that's the thing is if Sam can fix this part, then that's why I get your popcorn ready, baby. Training camp's gonna be crazy. Training camp's gonna be crazy. Uh, Joshua says, "Do you think it's fair for him to split reps with Trey? Fair for who? Fair for Trey or fair for Sam?" Um, listen, like, I, football, football in its football in its essence isn't meant to be fair. So football, what I love about football, and I love it because I'm teaching this to my son right now. He's on a team for the first time that values competition. Before his past 2 teams, they didn't care. Everyone gets a shot, right? Everyone's gonna get a crack, whatever, everyone's gonna get a participation award. This is the first team that he's on where they value competition. And I'm telling them, I'm like, this is what you want. You want competition. You want to have to take what is yours. No one's going to give you anything. That's what football is, man. No one is going to give you anything. And it shouldn't be that way. So I think it is fair to Trey because I think handing it to him is a disservice because that's not how football works. So being able to split reps, I think that should if Trey is a competitor like I believe he is, that will only motivate him more. So go compete, go split reps, and go take the job. They brought in Sam Darnold to push you. They brought in Sam Darnold to maybe take your job. Take it personally. Go out and compete and go prove to them that you're the guy. And that's what I love about football. So, is it fair? All is fair in love and war. All is fair in love and war. Let me rephrase it then. Do you think it is in the 49ers' best interest to not give Trey all the reps? Um, that's a great question. That's a great question because I thought it was in their best interest to give Trey all the reps his rookie year. Give Trey everything. Why is Jimmy here? You signaled to the world that Jimmy Garoppolo's not your future. And we know he's not our future. He's not even on the team. They signaled that to everyone when they traded up to go get Trey. And so when they did that, I was like, all right, it's time. This guy needs time to develop. How is he going to develop? He's going to need all the reps. Like that was a situation where like, yeah, I like competition, but that was one where I'm like, you got a young player who it could spiral quickly. For Trey coming in as a rookie, I was big on environment and belief. I'd say that all the time. Build an environment of belief around Trey that he can go do this. He hasn't had a lot of snaps. So don't allow him to submarine himself when and if he's and when he will start making mistakes. Build that environment of belief so that he knows he can go out and make those mistakes and build on those mistakes and has that opportunity. Didn't feel like that opportunity was ever given to him, and I think it was a bit detrimental to him. I think I think he would have done well by the organization propping him up. This is our quarterback. Putting him in the marketing material. This is who we're going with year one. And mistakes, issues, whatever, we're riding with Trey. I think that actually would have benefited Trey. And again, everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. Everyone handles adversity differently, but a guy with like Trey that still had some still had some questions about was he ready? Well, don't make him doubt himself. You know what I you know what I'm saying? Don't put Trey in a position to doubt himself and lose his confidence because just like Sam Darnold, just like a lot of these quarterbacks in the league, they lose their confidence and they lose their ability. So now I'm fine with it. I thought the time to give Trey all the reps was his rookie season. Um, I think timing isn't our ally. Uh, I think year three, and it's also kind of that thing like, all right, it's year three. Like we would have coddled you a little bit early on, but now the training wheels are off. Now it's on you. We got a championship to win, and we are going to put ourselves in the best position to either win it with you or with someone else. And I think that's just what like the hard part with this Trey thing is like, yes, they traded everything to go get him, but they're in this position where it's like, like you unfortunately got hurt, but it doesn't feel like they want to wait anymore. And it's like he has an opportunity to still win, but it's on him, if that makes sense. Like he still has that opportunity. And this is a big OTAs and training camp for him, but doesn't feel like they're ready to just give him the keys anymore. It's like, all right, training wheels are off. It's like a sink or swim type thing. And that's what the NFL is. Like, and someone said like Brock took those off. That's kind of the point. Like Brock came, you saw what Brock did. They're like, all right, well, I look at Brock, man. Your turn, kind of a situation. So they've seen it from a rookie. So they're like, all right, man, it's your turn. Prove to us that this is your job. Earn this job. Here's Sam Darnold. We're not going to give it to you. Earn it. Beat him out. Beat this guy. And if he does that, Trey will be better for it. Trey will have more success for it. He will be much better served if he can fight through this adversity. So, is it fair? No, but football isn't fair. So, uh, I'm not super upset. It's weird. Like I didn't love how he was handled his rookie year. I didn't. I was big time like, what the hell are we doing here, man? Especially when the 49ers weren't winning games early on. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But I understand where they're at right now. It's not ideal for Trey, but it's ideal for the franchise. And I think that's just how we have to look at it. Is that for Trey in a vacuum, not best case scenario, but for the organization as a whole, this is the best case scenario. You got Brock coming back. You bring in Sam Darnold, who they believe in, and Trey Lance has an opportunity to prove it. That is going to foster an environment of success for someone. But unfortunately, there is a variable that it's not Trey. We hope it's Trey. We hope Trey is able to take those steps, but we also are able to rationalize that there is an outcome where it's not Trey and it is Sam or it is Brock. That's the world that we live in. So that's why this is going to be a very important training camp. Um, Very important training camp for all these quarterbacks, man. Brock included. Got to get right, got to get healthy. And for Trey, it's got to fight. Got to take it, man. Got to take it. Uh, but again, fun story about like my son. Like my son wanted to play quarterback, and I've low key been like tuning my son up to play quarterback since he was a little kid. So what with my son, we never go out and we go do drills. I turn football and all these football things into games, but we're individually working on specific traits, throwing, catching, but it's he thinks we're just having fun since he was a little toddler. Um, but like he was super bummed out because he wasn't the quarterback. And he's on this new team. The coach just kind of picked quarterbacks, right? And like he was just like, "Oh, that sucks. Like, I kinda wanna play quarterback," and then he's out here, like, super bummed. We talked to him after his first practice. He's like, "Man, I'm not getting the ball as a receiver. I'm not playing quarterback," and I was and that's when I had the first conversation to him about, like, we're talking with Trey. I was like, "Listen, like, this team that you're on is not like the other teams. You have to compete. You have to prove and you have to take these spots on the team if you want them. No one is going to hand anything to you. These guys are going to play who they think is best. They're going to play who should play and help the team the most." And I was like, "You really got to lock that in and don't feel sorry for yourself because you're not being given something, but take that as empowerment that you can control what you ultimately get in return." And that clicked for him. And then we go to practice number 2, same thing though, not the quarterback and still not getting like good throws to him. None of that kind of stuff isn't happening after practice. Kind of bummed. I was like, "Man, I could see your body language wasn't good." Like this, that, and the other thing. I was like, I just reminded him like this game of football, it promises you nothing. There's nothing that you are just going to walk into and deserve football to give to you. It's the other way. I was like, "Man, you got to switch your mentality. You got to go take this. If you want to be better like receiver, you got to work harder, practice before practice, like you know what I mean? Like switching the mentality." And then third practice comes around and he's throwing and coach, you know, they go through practice, they have all these other quarterbacks again, same process, you know, but his body language is better. He's competing, he's trying his hardest. And so the mentality has shifted. It started with feeling bad for himself, and now he's fighting for everything. And then coach sees him just throwing the ball with his friends, and he's like, "Man, you got an arm on you. Let's get you at quarterback." They put him at quarterback. Now he's the quarterback of the team. So, long story short, again, I get a kick out of this type of stuff. I love football. I love football at the NFL level. I love watching my kid out here do it at a peewee level. But again, I see the correlation because yeah, as we're talking about, like the topic was, is it fair for Trey? Co Honestly, no, it's not fair, but that's what football is, and that's the beauty of football, is that the best guys are gonna play, and if Trey wants to play, he's gotta be the best guy. He's gotta do it. He's gotta go into practice and prove no matter what they put against him, no matter what the obstacles are, he has to go prove it, and he's got to take that job, and So moving into this training camp, like I think it's gonna be we're gonna see what Trey really can be. We're gonna see if he can step up to the challenge and take it over and take this spot and compete, 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 compete. Not feeling sorry for yourself, not feeling bad that the career has gone the way it's gone. Like, look at Sam. Look at Sam Darnold's career. He could feel bad about himself. He could be like, this sucks. Look at Brock. He could be like, oh man, this sucks. I was Mr. Irrelevant. Then I had the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl and my UCL got torn. None of these guys have the opportunity to feel bad for themselves. None of these guys have the opportunity to be like, man, life ain't fair. And when you look at the quarterback position, you have three guys that all have that same kind of process. Nothing about their NFL careers up until this point has been simple. So all three quarterbacks have this high level of adversity that they've all struggled with, and now they're all going to compete against each other. So I think that can create a vacuum of propulsion, of pushing. One of these guys is going to take it and elevate it. So it's on Trey, though. And I hope Trey does it. I hope he takes advantage of it because there's two other guys that have one has already shown it, and two, Sam is coming in to compete. So it's gonna be an interesting off season. I can't wait, but I love it. I love competition, man. I love it. I it gets me hyped. Like I'm sitting here, like I got a low key adrenaline rush going, like thinking about competition, like because I love competition. That's why I love playing football. Like I love competing. It's my favorite thing about it. Um, so that's what the focus got to be. Focus on competing. 49ers will be in a good spot. But appreciate all you guys as always. We're going to have a lot of more conversations about this quarterback, I promise you. But regardless, the San Francisco 49ers are still in a good spot. I like Sam Darnold. I like Brock Purdy. And I like Trey Lance. I'm one of those rare breeds that is able to like multiple quarterbacks at one time for different reasons. And I do believe that the 49ers have insulated their quarterback room to find success, but we just don't know who it's coming from. We don't know if it's going to be Sam. We don't know if it's going to be Trey. And we really don't know if it's going to be Brock, to be perfectly honest. We've been told he's clubhouse leader, but we don't know yet. So I do think one of these guys is going to take it over. We just got to wait and see who. So it's going to be a good one. Going to be a good one. Appreciate all you guys as always. Hope you have a phenomenal Friday. And we will be back next. Oh, I got to get. I've seen Justin talking about Cansey. Speaking of competition, do you think Cansey could give Armstead a run for his money? They're so different. I think it would put Armstead on notice. 100%. Armstead's contract getting big, baby. That was a backloaded contract. I think he's about to have like a $20 million cap hit. If the 49ers go out and spend a high draft pick on Cansey, oh, you better believe the competition would kick up. Because why would they be doing that? Because they're getting Armstead's replacement. That's what that is. That's what that signal would be. So you want competition, especially on that defensive line, and you want to push Armstead even more. Yeah, go get Cansey. See what happens. That would be a phenomenal problem to have. Like you talk about problems, that's a good problem. You got Cansey, Armstead, Hargrave. Dude, I saw Cansey get mocked like like 6th overall. That boy climbing up boards, man. That boy's climbing up boards. So we'll see, man. We got a fun year ahead of us. Might seem stressful now. But I'm over the stress of I got it out. I really do think I got it out of me this week. I was stressed at first. When all the chatter and everyone kind of bleh, like let it out, and I'm like, screw this, like give it to Trey. Oh, it's Brock. Yeah, Sam sucks. After kind of getting through all that, I'm ready to go, man. I feel good. I feel good about this quarterback room. I'm fine. I'm fine with them bringing in competition for Trey. I do actually see the upside in Sam, and I do think Purdy can still remain the starter. So I'm okay. I'm good. I feel a sense of calm heading into this weekend. Hopefully you guys do too. Don't let this quarterback situation stress you out too much. Don't let it stress you out too much. So we'll see. We shall see. But appreciate you guys as always. Plenty more to talk about coming up next week. You guys have a phenomenal weekend. I'll see you on Monday. And smash that like button on your way out. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to